So you're someone who's pretty familiar with flying. You've said you have flown 400,000 miles since 2015.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like you fly for a living.
That you would think that, and it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, there's this um, this website that I go on where you can keep track of all that, and it tracks which route it was, and it can actually you can even get down to the type of aircraft and even the tail number.
Wow.
And with that, you can look up the stats of the aircraft. But you're getting into really, really nerdy aviation stuff there. But the main reason that I do it is just so I can keep track of where I've been, and again how many miles I've flown. But yes, you're right. Since I've been keeping track in 2015, it's just a shade over 400,000 total, but in seat miles.
So explain to listeners and viewers why you why you fly so much. What do you love about it? Because a lot of people, they don't like sitting on planes and flying, right?
Well, honestly, a good chunk of that is just our vacations. Like, or
Okay.
I'd go back to Illinois to visit family and friends in Bloomington, or we'd go. My wife and I would go to, like, we went to Australia, we went to South Africa for our honeymoon. When my sister lived in China, I went and visited her in Shanghai, I think 4 or 5 times. So a good chunk of those miles are really like there was, well, they all have purpose, but they were like, it was a vacation. I was somewhere to visit somebody or experience a new country or something like that. So it's my wife and I, we really love to travel, and so we like to get out there.
But there are a few trips, you would admit, where you just go for the miles, don't you?
Yes. And it's absolutely crazy for somebody that is not into the miles and points and gaining airline status game to think about that. But for somebody that enjoys it, it's almost, I don't know, it's addicting. And I will admit, like, I've since in the last year or so, especially since COVID has come around, like I've definitely cooled down quite a bit. But prior to COVID, it was pretty crazy. I think 2019 was my busiest year. I took 79 flights.
Wow.
All leisure. Like, that's
all
not
leisure.
all leisure, no work trips or anything. Yeah.
Wow.
79 flights. Yep. So I definitely had the bug. They call it they call it mileage running, and there's actually a whole community online with all that stuff. And believe it or not, like, I would say I'm your average mileage runner, maybe a little bit above average, but there are some guys out there that they just take it to the extreme. I mean, they are looking at every single, how can I get this deal and maximize the amount of miles and dollars, and it's an absolutely crazy community, but in a good way. Yeah, you would never think that, but it's actually been around for quite a while. So
so what kind of deals can you get with the miles? Like, how does that all work?
Oh man, it's not so much that, well, getting deals is really just a commitment to just being able to commit the time to just looking maybe on a daily basis, or there's actually an app called Expert Flyer, where you can pay like an annual subscription where it can alert you to, like, hey, there's award seats open for this flight on this date. Now, I don't do that, but that's an example where some people will pay that money to get these notifications that, hey, here's a good business class deal to, I don't know, Tokyo or something like that, and they'll jump on it because it's pretty cheap, but they'll get so many miles out of it that they can use at a later date. But
smart. It's like very like, it's like one of those like spider webs of like I'm sure, like a map, like a world map with all these
In a way,
All
I
these
mean,
lines, yeah.
like I said, it's pretty incredible how some people can piece together these itineraries using just miles or finding these deals. And again, that's just it's an example of how passionate people are for this whole mileage running and points and miles game, and just to get status and get these miles. But I guess you could almost say it's kind of like a drug. Like it's something that they just enjoy, and it's to each their own. But it's just something that most people just wouldn't think of, that, hey, what are you going to do today? Oh, I'm going to go. Like there's been times where I've just flown to New York and back on the same day. And, it's like, you're laughing because you're like, man, you're crazy. Like, I don't blame you. But to me, it's like, well, hey, I can either sit at home this Saturday and do nothing, or I can sit on a plane and do nothing. And, I found a good deal, paid a couple $100, but I'm getting some miles out of it, and then I'm working towards my status. So, you got to kind of think of the big picture.
It's fun. It's fun.
And yeah, exactly. And then if you get an upgrade, you're sitting in first class for free. And so that's just an extra perk that comes with it. So there's always the chance for that as well. So it's the mileage running world is, be careful, because if you go too deep, you'll get sucked in.
Do you have any, is there any like trips or flights that stand out to you?
So the one extreme one that I did, the most extreme one that I did was, it was a trip to Singapore, and I was in Singapore for about 8 or 9 hours.
Okay.
I found a good deal found a good business class deal, and it just happened to work out where the days off worked out as well, and it was going to net me a ton of miles towards getting Delta status. And I'd never been to Singapore, and I had always wanted to go, and so I was just like, you know what, let's do it. And so I flew business class round trip from LAX to Shanghai to Singapore. Spent time in Singapore. I left the airport. I went to the Marina Bay Sands Hotel. Look it up. It's very cool.
Okay.
Marina Bay Sands. I went to the top of their rooftop bar, enjoyed a nice meal, some good tequila while overlooking the city of Singapore, and then went back to the airport, got on a plane, and flew.
That's fantastic.
And I'll agree with you and everybody listening that it's absolutely crazy. But at the same time, you just now are thinking about it. You're like, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's definitely cool.
There's a little bit of you, and that's like, we're to that point with just being able to travel that on a weekend or a 3-day weekend, I can literally go halfway around the world and kind of check off a mini bucket list item.
Yeah.
And come back, and just being able to do that, like, yeah, it is silly, but at the same time, it's a great story that I can tell people.
Yeah, you can tell people on a podcast.
Exactly.